Hi, I'm Jason Gore for BestBuy.ca, and we're here to talk about Anker headphones. So what's really nice about this company, Anker, is that they do a lot of things right. They build products that sort of fit a very specific niche in a really cost-effective way. And I was really interested to actually hear what they had in terms of the headphones. If you look at the two models that we're looking at here, one's the Liberty Air Pro 2, and one's the Life Dot 2 NC. These are two noise-canceling headphones, in-ear headphones. They both come with these little sort of pods that the headphones sort of charge in. They both do a decent job. They both have a standardized app from the company that actually allows you to tune it in different ways. And really, I think it's all about what your budget actually allows and how much it matters to you, not only fit, but also how it actually sort of plays back any of your music or actually deals with calls and that sort of stuff. So the first one we're going to look at is the Life Dot 2 NC, which obviously the NC stands for noise canceling. Now, there's sort of, for me, for my personal taste, sort of two strikes against this kind of headphone. I'm not a huge fan of sort of off-the-shelf in-ear headphones. They tend to not be as comfortable for me as over-the-ear. And just for years, I've used the over-the-ear headphones in all kinds of different ways. But I know more and more people, especially for Bluetooth, are looking for something smaller when they're doing running. I obviously don't run. But when just working out or any stuff like that, or just, frankly, walking around, people are really sort of enjoying the ability just to walk around with a little pod like this, as it were. So inside this little case is the headphones themselves. There's this sort of weird plasticky flap thing, and underneath that is a USB charging port. Both of them use USB. I'm a big fan of that cable technology. It's not only quick, it's standardized on more and more things, everything from being able to charge your laptop right through to devices like this. It's a very secure connection, and it's a reversible connection, so it doesn't matter if you go up or down, it's going to plug in. So I'm a big fan of that. Inside one of these cases, you can see that these tiny little headphones that actually sort of do the trick. They have these little flappy things to actually pull them out of your ear. And if you're looking for something like really light and really small, you have these elements that absolutely do the trick. If I put them in, there is a little right and left in it, but if you put it in and sort of do the trick, they sort of fit within the ear, reasonably comfortable, ability to actually pull it out with a little rubber flap, and they do the trick. Most of these headphones operate the same way. There's these little contacts on the side. That's what connects to the base of this inside. And normally they actually turn on as soon as you sort of remove them from the case, which is really nice. They're magnetic, so once they're in here, they sort of close in. They're not going to fall out when they put them in. So this flap is sort of like an oyster, like it sort of flips up like some sort of seafood shell. The other model, the sort of higher model, the hybrid ANC, pure no technology, 26-hour playtime Liberty Air 2 Pro, is obviously a higher model, which means it's a little bit more expensive. But it does come with some stuff that I find really gratifying. Inside, there's like an entire sort of an army of ear pads inside here that you can actually go. If I sort of take out this stuff from the box, inside you can see that I have all of these selections of different ear pads to make it fit in your ear. It definitely helps with fit in a way which is quite pleasing. If you look inside the box of the other one, we have a couple things that similarly do. You have, again, a row of all these ear pads that you can actually choose. I just found, frankly, the ear pads on the other model much more comfortable. If you actually look at how these ones are constructed, this is the pad for the other model, the Liberty Air 2 Pro. If you look at the way that this is constructed, it sort of slides up. It's a little bit more elegant. And as you can see here, the actual construction of the ear phone itself is very different. It's very reminiscent, obviously, of a white pair that you might have seen. This sort of extension gives you a little bit more sort of ability to move it around without sort of interfering with the sound in a little bit of way. I found this much more comfortable as it sort of sits in the ear. It does a pretty decent job underneath all this hair. It does a decent job of sort of sitting in there and doing the trick. I found just these more comfortable to wear after an extended period of time compared to the Life Dot 2 model, the smaller model. So I found, just in terms of comfort, the Liberty Air more comfortable after several hours of use than the Life Dot. Now, in terms of technology, they both do noise canceling. There's significantly more advanced features with this one. It allows you to do some really interesting personal equalization with it. It has a sort of an indoor mode, a transport mode, or an outdoor mode that you're sort of dialing in specifically. And the personalized sound, this so-called Hear ID, that actually lets it basically gives you hearing tests and lets you basically determine on that basis an equalization curve that corrects for what your hearing is. Now, I messed with it. I just tried to say that I couldn't hear things that I could hear, just to hear how it would change. And then I did one slightly more accurate. I had some dips in my hearing, as everyone sort of does. And then I tried it on and off. Now, I'm usually somebody that likes just the headphones to be a very neutral, very basically turn off all the equalization just to see how it sounds. As a sort of a baseline test, but also wanted to try this sort of Hear ID, and it did a pretty decent job. I was actually quite pleased. Whenever you have noise cancellation, it inevitably changes the sound of the model itself. It tweaks it slightly. It's changing the timbre of what's taking place. And certainly the Liberty Air 2 did a better job with that. I found that when noise cancellation was on with the Life Dot 2, it was a little bit, it became a little bit more thin. Both headphones are definitely emphasizing, I mean, in a broad scope, you can think of it as, we talked about it before, a smiley face EQ. It really emphasizes the bass and really high treble, as if there's sort of two drivers inside, sort of a bassier driver and a very, very high tweeter. But there's not a lot of rich mid-range. So the headphones I'm used to, even my in-ear monitors that I have, I'm used to a much richer, much more nuanced sort of middle ground of the audio spectrum. Now, look, you're always chasing different forms of audio perfection. And the more you spend, often the more you're going to get out of these. But for the price, I think these are an extraordinary value. I think both of them are very good. But of the two, I would definitely pick up a pair of Liberty Air Pro, Air 2 Pros. I found the sound sections are actually very close to some much higher end models. And by your ability to actually tweak the equalization to your taste, you're actually able to sort of boost a little bit the frequencies, or for that matter, sort of roll off some of the higher frequencies. Is really what it's doing, is a kind of a destructive EQ, since it's taking frequencies away instead of boosting certain other ones. And it does the trick. The loudness, I mean, inevitably when you have built-in amplification, it only goes so loud. It depends on how the songs are mixed. It's one of the reasons, frankly, that a lot of people are actually mixing audio now with tons of compression, because most people are listening and these kind of Bluetooth headphones that don't do such a good job of having a lot of dynamic range, going from the super quiet to the super loud. With a great deal of subtlety. That's sort of endemic to the entire industry. That's a fight that not all of us are going to be able to win. But it still did a decent job. Now, what kind of stuff am I going to listen to with these both these headphones? Well, again, it's all about the kind of music you listen to. If you're listening to just like really intensely produced pop or hip hop or something like that, these do a great job. That's kind of what they're designed for. They're designed for something that's really punchy and really a lot of bass and a lot of treble information. If you're listening to EDM and that stuff, golden. I tend to throw a little bit more of a torture test at these kind of headphones. Acoustic folk, for example, or a bunch of jazz. Stuff where when you have acoustic instruments being played back, even on Spotify or whatever your streaming mode of choice is, you're just going to lose that sort of part right where the human voice actually hits. A real good test for any of that stuff is female vocalists. Stuff from the 40s and 50s has been recorded really well. You just will lose a little bit of the body of their voice. You'll hear the sort of high end of it, but definitely you'll hear sort of the acoustic bass, but the sort of warm, rich midness is a little bit absent on that. I mean, it's a minor quibble, but it's there. I found, again, with the Liberty Air 2, after several hours of listening, it wasn't so fatiguing, which I was actually very pleased with. Some of the headphones, especially at this range, become a little bit brittle, the sound. You just get tired of listening to it, no matter what you're actually throwing at it, but especially when you're listening to something, again, that's slightly more acoustic-y, you just find it a little bit tiresome. The sort of digital reproduction of that kind of sound just becomes a little bit shrill, for lack of a better word. So I was actually extremely pleased with these. Again, I think these are okay. I didn't think that they were super, the Life Dot 2, I didn't think they were super comfortable. I thought that they did the trick, but I didn't love them. But yeah, I'm actually a big fan of these. I like the charging lights on it. I like how it slides. I like this construction much more. Look, it's still not going to be my favorite. It's still, for me, I would probably choose over the here circumaural headphones. But if I'm going to go with in-ear and I want sort of a pretty rock solid, excellent battery life, good sound, customizable, great app support, well constructed, easy to charge, blah blah blah, all the good stuff, I would absolutely suggest that you actually give a pair of these a try. I think that the Life Dot 2 is okay, and I think that are very good value for the money, but these really are pretty terrific and compete extremely favorably with headphones much significantly more expensive than this from a bunch of brands, including some people who manufacture phones. I would definitely go with a pair of these than over ones like this that may occasionally be colored white. Fundamentally, there's nothing more amusing for me sometimes than seeing a bunch of these sort of lying about on the escalators at subways or whatever, back when we do transit all the time. Inevitably, you know, without your headphone band, it is possible for these to sort of get dislodged, and then you drop them and you don't know where they got. That is part of the fun of this kind of headphone construction. But when it works, it works. Now, I will say another thing which, for me as somebody who's simply used to circumaural, is like you want to adjust. You want to get it so that the seal is as perfect as it can be. And the way that these come out of the box is it's touch functionality. So you can hit it twice and it will do like skip tracks or stop or play. Or you can actually adjust it in the software. It'll actually allow you so that if you hit once, it'll do whatever the function is. That drives me nuts because you just like I'm just like putting in my ear and just, you know, if you're lying down or whatever and you have the headphones there and you want to adjust it and then suddenly I'm skipped to the next track. It's nice that I'm able to actually disable that. Again. Many of you will be much more used to these type of headphones than I am. I'm simply listening to them of like how they work as the sound, and all the functionality. I just want to simply work and to be comfortable in my ear. And when I'm there and I'm able to sort of take off some of that sort of additional functionality, I really think that they do a terrific job. Now, those of us who actually still use our phones to actually make calls, or if you're doing a recording, whatever, both of them obviously have microphones. They have to have microphones to make the noise cancellation work, but they also have microphones in order to actually speak to somebody. Leave your headphones in your ear and take a call if you're going to take a call. I have to say that this model, the sort of Life Dot 2 model, did a terrible job with calls. These were quite miserable. I gave a couple people calls and they just couldn't hear me at all. It was just absolutely distorted. These little guys, it's just too far away. I think that the microphones are not particularly excellent. It might account for why that the noise cancellation itself is also pretty tinny and doesn't do as good a job in contrast with the other pair that we're looking at here. But again, if you're looking for something, let's say just using a gym or something like that in a loud environment where you just want to cut out whatever nonsense music they're playing at the time, or if you're on a plane and you don't want to worry about bringing something that's slightly more expensive along with you, or even as a spare pair, these I think absolutely do the trick. But these guys, they did a much, much better job with phone calls. They did a much better job with noise cancellation, the different levels of noise cancellation, and frankly, they did a much better job of musical reproduction. So of the two, I really think you want to give these a shot if you can make the extra jump. I think of going with the higher end model from this company is probably the way to go. Yes, they're a little bit more robust in their construction, which some people might not like that extra sort of little dongle bit, but I found it more comfortable to do. I found that the actual noise cancellation was far superior. I still turned it off, but when it was there, it did much less destruction for the audio just in a testing environment. I frankly thought that the seal was so much better that I didn't need noise cancellation quite as much. Even in a loud environment, just without noise cancellation, listening at decent enough volume, not blaring it out, but just not having the antenna sort of blaring through, these definitely did the trick. So there we go. There's sort of a quick look at two really interesting pairs of in-ear headphones, the Liberty Air 2 Pro and the Life Dot 2 NC, both from Anker, both really exciting, I think, models that fit really nicely into a moderate budget. I think they absolutely do the trick, as well if as many sort of name brands that often sort of rely upon their name brand notion rather than what their actual performance is. And of the two of them, yeah, I'm a much bigger fan of the Liberty Air 2 Pro. It's such a mouthful to say. These ones are going to be the ones that I actually prefer, that I'll use when I need a pair of headphones like this. Actually, absolutely do the trick. They last forever. They last for, what do they say? Something like, 26 hours of playtime. Even with you turn noise cancellation off, they last even longer. I definitely think that they do the trick. Now, remember, for those that are using Bluetooth headphones like this, they're not going to work on stuff like planes. With the media center that's set up, you actually need wired headphones for that. So this is never going to go for that. And you are limited about the lifespan of the battery charging inside. Now, things have gotten much, much better that way. But that's one thing that this model is simply just never going to compete against. Something, a really higher end wired pair of headphones can last you a lifetime. Whereas something like this, they're much easier to lose. They're much easier to sort of foots with. So that's something to take in consideration for people that are worried about such things. But frankly, most people are sort of aware of that. We're sort of in a position now where we just want something that just works and works very well with all of our devices. And as there's almost no model of mobile phone that actually still has a headphone jack, these are definitely the way to go for the vast majority of people who are going to want to listen with portable devices and get the most that they can out of whether they be Android, Apple, whatever it is that they actually do. There we are. A look at the Anker headphones. Thanks so much for watching. For BestBuy.ca, I am Jason Gorber, and we'll see you next video. All the best. Take care.